Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's webinar masterclass. This week we are delighted to be welcoming Kathy Ennis from Little Piggy, who's going to be talking about how to magnetize your online marketing. A really great topic that I think is going to be relevant to lots of different people. So I'm going to hand over to Kathy in a minute. If you have any questions throughout, please type them into the question box and I'll be going through those, and we'll have some time to ask Kathy questions at the end of her presentation. So over to you, Kathy.
Thanks very much, Sophie, and thank you everybody for taking the time out of your day to come and listen to me this afternoon. I'm really grateful for Enterprise Nation for asking me to come and speak with you today. I'm going to talk to you about something that I think is, in a lot of senses, quite basic, but I think that some businesses aren't using it as well as they should, and some people aren't actually using it at all, and that's the concept of a lead magnet. So something that can actually generate more leads for you and your business. I think one of the key things that we have is we have visitors coming to our website. So what we need to do is we need to do something where we can get those people to share something with us so that we can start the engagement process. And in essence, that's what a lead magnet is. A lead magnet, we've all seen them, we've probably signed up for them ourselves. It's the thing that you will find on a website that will give you some hints, tips, advice. Maybe it's some form of template, maybe it's some kind of downloadable calendar that can help us do something, find something out, discover something new. And basically, if we look at the definition of a lead magnet, I've got one here. I took this definition. It says it's usually free. I would say, 99.9 times out of 100 it should be free, dedicated to giving your website visitors something relevant and of value in exchange for their contact information, usually simply their name and their email address. So what it is, it's a tempting offer on your website that encourages this first level of engagement with people who visit your website. For me, a lead magnet is the top of the funnel. It's the thing that encourages people to connect with you in the first place. Now, what you may do during the process of building that engagement, building that relationship with those customers, is bring in other incentives as time goes forward. But the lead magnet is the thing that sits at the top. It is the initial hook. It's the thing that encourages people to share something quite valuable to them, which is their name and their email address with you, so that you can then start that engagement process. And basically it works for every type of business. That I can't think of a business where some form of lead magnet wouldn't work. And I think for me, the concept of a good lead magnet is that it can generate hundreds, maybe thousands of leads per month in any business, depending on the business, the size of the business that you've got. One key point here in terms of lead magnet delivery is that you will need to have something that sits behind this giveaway that allows you to manage the leads. So you can't have a good lead magnet without a good management system sitting behind it. So an email marketing tool that actually has an automated autoresponder series function sitting in behind it. And there are loads and loads of really good email marketing systems out there. You can't manage this process on a manual basis. There also needs to be thought given to what drives or manages those leads into the next level. As I said, your lead magnet is your top of the funnel process. It's the thing that's of high value to the customer or potential customer, and actually low value in terms of low cost to the business owner to create. So in terms of taking your people through the process and converting those leads into people that are going to purchase from you in the long run, you need to consider, if this is the top level, what are the other levels that we're going to go through? I am only going to concentrate on lead magnets here, so that level today, but I did want you to realise that this is a top level and that there may be steps people need to go through through this process. What I normally say to my clients when I'm working with them, and this is where this comes into, is that you have to think about what you want as the end result of the whole process before you start designing the beginning of the process, because it's the end result that will determine what you actually do at the beginning, which actually leads me quite neatly into my next point, which is what you need to do before you start. So the first thing really that you have to concentrate on, and this is the big element here with creating anything within your marketing, but with a lead magnet, you have to understand who your customers are. Who is it that you are trying to reach? Now, there are two approaches that you can actually take with a lead magnet. You can create something that is very generalized, that covers your business as a whole, that would attract your full audience. So, for example, I've got a lead magnet sitting on my website at the moment that is some basic tips for running a business. Okay, so it's nothing really in depth, but it does give people some tips that they can use over time. Now, I work with people who are starting businesses or people looking for growth in their business. So for me, the top 10 tips that I've put together there are aimed specifically at my entire audience. The other thing that you can do with the lead magnet is that you can use it to attract a very small segment of your audience. So for example, if I took that lead magnet I've been talking to you about and I wanted to attract a particular segment of the kinds of clients that I work with, I may have created something that wasn't just the top 10 tips for your business. I might have created something was the top 10 tips if you're running a coaching business, or if you are starting a tutorial business. So I'd actually only be wanting to attract people from a very, very specific part of my of my customer base. So this is why I say that right at the beginning you have to think of who are the customers, who is it that's going to be reaching this, what's the outcome I want from this lead magnet, because that then will allow you to identify how you actually start the process. So you always start with your customers. Once you understand that, then you can start going through these other questions, which is, what is it, the questions or the problems that that audience has, that particular set of customers actually have, that you and your business help solve. How will your lead magnet answer these questions or solve those specific problems for that group of customers? What format should it be in order to provide the answers in the most suitable way for those people? And one thing that quite a lot of people forget is to look at what their competitors are doing. So if you have got people that are doing something and offering something very, very similar to you, if your lead magnet is then something very similar to what they're doing, you may not be creating enough of a unique offer. So I would recommend that what you do is look around and see what other people are doing in your industry, some of your main competitors, and do something different. Don't do exactly the same as they're doing. And I'll give you a classic example. It is connected with this. It's slightly askew, but it is connected. And I work a lot with what I'd call service-based firms, and what they often will have on their websites as a lead magnet is the opportunity to have a 30-minute discovery session or something. So, you know, no fee, you can phone up, you can book an appointment, Skype call, whatever it might be, and have a conversation. Now, they're all doing that. And a lot of the customers that would go to those sites would be expecting to see that. But the other thing that the customers are expecting is that that half an hour freebie is actually 20 minutes of free with 10 minutes of upsell at the end of it, which is why I'm starting to get feedback from a lot of my clients saying, well, I've got it on my site, but it's not actually working. Nobody's phoning, nobody's booking these sessions. And it's because everybody's doing it. There's nothing new, nothing unique in it. People are used to it happening, and therefore they're not actually taking advantage of it. So you need to consider what everybody else is doing. See if you can come up with something that is slightly different, slightly off kilter in terms of what they're doing. And third point here is that you need to make sure that you change it, whatever this offer is, whatever this magnet is, on as regular basis as you possibly can. I would say that a lead magnet really only has got about a 12-week shelf life. So you need to think about how you're going to be changing them over time. So some of the key criteria that you need to make sure your lead magnet follows is that, number one, it has to solve a real problem. It's something that you know that your customers are telling you that they've got an issue with. So it's not just something that you make up, it's something that's very, very specific. It has to be something that also, by solving the problem, demonstrates how you uniquely will help them solve that problem. So this is where this differentiation comes in terms of your competition. It should give them a very simple, quick win. So it should be something that allows them to do something very, very quickly and have success through it. It should be very, very specific, not generalist at all. Quick and easy to digest, so that this is why some of the best lead magnets are very, very short. And I will probably say this again, I do not believe that an ebook is a lead magnet. I believe that an ebook is the second level down in the funnel, whereas the lead magnet is the first level in the funnel. An ebook, there's far too much information in there, you're giving away too much of your expertise. Make it super specific, make it quick and easy to digest. It should be something that gives people step by step. So do this, do this, do this, do this, and this will be your end result. I've said this already, high value to the customer doesn't mean that it has to be high cost to yourself. So something like a checklist that people can use on a day-to-day basis, something like a calendar, a scheduling type tool, these kinds of things make great lead magnets that your customers will value, but it won't cost you that much to actually create, and it will probably be delivered in some kind of PDF format, so there shouldn't be any printing costs or anything like that. So there you go, low cost to you. And this is the side of it, it needs to be instantly accessible, and this is where you need to make sure that it's in a format that when somebody gives you their email address and their name, that this thing appears in front of them. So if we were going to be doing this off your website, you may have some kind of landing page that people go on to offer you their name and their email address, and then they get this thing delivered in the form of an email into their inbox. This is a very, very common way of delivering these items. What I want to move on to now is a description of some of the different types of lead magnets that are out there, just to give you an idea of the range. Now, this is by no means an exhaustive list. There are many, many, many different types. And in fact, I wrote a blog this week on my website about lead magnets, and I'm going to be writing another one this week that follows on from there. I've used some of the ones I'm using here today as examples. There are others in that blog, so you can go and have a look at those. So let's have a look at a few here. So number one, the checklist. It condenses everything your target audience needs. Things they need to know, stuff that they can use, stuff that they can tick. I'm a huge a fan of things that I can tick lists. It's reprintable. It's an action list, so it's just one sheet that they can download. We then have the concept of the cheat sheet. It's similar to a checklist, but it's slightly broader, providing things like guidance, systems, processes, things that your target customers can follow and do over and over again to achieve a specific result. And a toolkit. Now, toolkit is a tiny bit more complex because it's actually pulling together a variety of resources, but they're generally resources that you've created already. So it'll probably be links to things like checklists, like cheat sheets, like blogs that you've already written on a particular topic, so that people have got all of these little tools in one place. A template. I don't know about you, but I absolutely love templates. If somebody sat there and they've created an idea of something where I can just put my own thoughts and ideas into and use, these actually make great lead magnets. The kinds of things that I actually really like and I use all of the time that I've downloaded as templates are things to do with the size specifications for headers on various social media platforms. So how big should a Facebook header be, etc. That saves me masses of time, and usually with something like that I've got it pinned on a board right in front of my desktop in my office. There I've got that person front of mind constantly because their template is in front of me. The concept of a swipe file, I love these as well. These are examples. So the 50 best email subject lines ever, or the 3 email autoresponder series that always gets results. They're actual templates of what would be written in those things that you can just top and tail with your own branding or input your own details. They're ready to go. You can just lift them and use them. So swipe files are a great idea. Calendars. I don't know about you, but my local Chinese takeaway quite often delivers one around about Christmas time, and that's great because that gets pinned up on my wall. And although it makes me want to eat more Chinese food, which is not a brilliant idea, but it does always make sure that when I think of Chinese food, I think of the quick wok. So having a calendar where you can put in relevant dates, details, but also keep your details, keeps you front of mind with your potential customers. The plan or the planner, very similar to a calendar, but this is where people can actually plan a process. So the example I've got here is to do with meal plans. I know quite a few nutritionists, for example, who use these kinds of things to encourage their clients to start eating healthier. Personal trainers use these quite a lot as well, in terms of, you know, these are the 5 exercises you need to do that day, these are the 5 you need to do such and such a day. So, you know, they do work really well. How many of you have done those quizzes on Facebook that tell you which, if you were a hero or heroine from a novel, which one you would be? Quizzes, absolutely great. They might test people's IQ, knowledge, whatever it might be. You can actually, I think, bottle up in here the whole concept of a questionnaire as well. So it could be a quiz, it could be a questionnaire. I'm working with a wonderful psychotherapist at the moment, and the lead magnet that she's actually using is a questionnaire about understanding whether you're in a passive-aggressive relationship, and that's actually doing really, really well for her and building her list really successfully. And then one of the ones that I think is an ultimate is the video tutorial or the webinar. This kind of thing that I'm doing here today does encourage people to actually connect with you. I think the great thing about the video or the webinar side of things is that people do get to feel that they know you as an individual as well. So they do work really very, very well. I haven't put up here discount voucher. Now, I think that discount vouchers work really well. I think they work very well for e-commerce businesses. But I think one of the things you have to be really aware of with discount vouchers is how available they are and how long they are available for. I have an issue with discount vouchers that are available all of the time, 365 days of the year, because what happens is that people start to think, well, I don't need to buy this thing now, I don't need to engage with this thing now because I can get it any day that I come to this site. So I think that you could use discount vouchers as a really good lead magnet, but you do need to change them up. I say that keeping discounts constantly available for people to take advantage of puts you into that sort of DFS style of selling, where nobody is going to buy a sofa at full price because we know we can get it at half price. So the anatomy of a good lead magnet to start bringing things to a close here before I get to answer some of your questions. You actually need to give it a snappy, descriptive, eye-catching title. So you need to give it something that's going to appeal to people. And you can play around with language here, but make sure that it's something that's going to make people stop and take note. It needs to be visually attractive. Now, most of my my lead magnets, as I say, I would be delivering mine via PDF, and I use something called Canva, which is a free online tool for creating resources. And I think they look pretty good. I'd have some feedback from people if they think they look awful. Thank you. But this is a way to ensure that the cost to you is kept low, but the value to the customer is kept high. It needs to provide that real value. It needs to be something that they want to know and need to know. It shouldn't be comprehensive. It should provide part of the answer, not the entire answer. This is why I'm saying that an ebook, to me, is not a lead magnet. An ebook is far more comprehensive. Cover one key topic, something that they're going to be able to do easily and quickly and implement straight away. And have one specific call to action. So again, this goes back to what I was saying before. Before you start the process of this, think about what you want as the outcome. What do you want people to do? Do you want people just to give you their name and their email address, or do you want them to sign up for something else? Do you want them to go somewhere else? Do you want them to contact you? What is it that you actually want them to do as a result of engaging with this lead magnet? Okay, well, that's been a very, very quick run through. I hope you found that useful, and if you have got any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Great, thank you, Kathy. That was a really great presentation. We've had a few questions come in. Maybe we want to kick off. What's your favourite case study of a high-impact lead magnet campaign? And do you have any performance metrics you could share?
Well, number one, I don't have any metrics that I've got at the moment. But in terms of high impact and conversion, I probably would recommend that people have a look at anything that Amy Porterfield is doing. She, as far as I'm concerned, is the doyenne of this kind of activity. She does some great stuff herself, and she has some great stuff around tutorials in terms of getting people into using this process. But yeah, that's what I would recommend.
Great, thank you. One here, do you have any good examples of lead magnets for product-based businesses?
I haven't got a specific example of a product-based business, but coming again to the idea of what you want to get as an outcome from your lead magnet. Is it that you want to engage with the people? Is it that you want them to lead them through the funnel to buy that particular product? Now, if we take, for example, somebody who is selling shoes, one of the things that they might do around a lead magnet is to have something about how to care for your shoes, how many pairs of shoes people need, how you look after nubuck as opposed to leather, as opposed to suede. So what you're doing with the lead magnet is giving people some hints and tips and advice about how to manage that product, which you will then be feeding them through your funnel into the process of buying that product. And I was talking to somebody the other day who has a business where they create bespoke jewellery. And the idea is that the customer comes to them with a design for a piece of jewellery, which they then create a proper design from, and then they actually create the piece of jewellery made from the customer's design. So we're talking about creating a lead magnet for them that explains different types of gemstones, different types of cuts of gemstones, which gems look good in which metals, and then gives them a space within this lead magnet where they've actually got a grid where they can design a piece of jewellery. So the idea is that then with that thing they can lead them through their funnel process so that they end up creating this piece of jewellery for that client.
Great, thank you. Quite a big question here, but you could probably do an entire other webinar on, but maybe just a quick overview. What would you suggest are the best ways to follow up once you've kind of captured someone through the lead magnet?
This is where your email autoresponder system comes through. Is that what you would do is you would have, once somebody's email and name comes into a particular list that you've created within your email system, that then triggers, number one, the delivery of the lead magnet, and number two, it triggers a series of follow-up messages to that particular person that have been designed to engage them and find as much out about them as possible. Obviously, what you might also build in there, depending on the nature of your business, you might build in some direct connection, contact. It's quite difficult. One of the things to think about when you're asking people to share their contact details with you is that more often than not they're willing to share their name and their email address, but once you start asking them to share other details such as phone numbers, etc., there is a slight reticence. So you may not be able to contact them directly by phone until you get to know them a little bit. So this is where, as I say, the email service, the email system kicks in to start that engagement process.
Great, thank you. Just going through some questions here. We have quite a few questions coming in, so I'm not sure, you're happy to stay around for a couple more minutes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great, thank you. Okay, so a question here. Is it okay to have more than one lead magnet going on at a time, perhaps to target different segments of the audience?
Yes, you can, but you would need to think about the placement of them, because what I've spoken about so far is having a lead magnet on your website that people may find and share their information with. One of the processes of making lead magnets really leady, if you want to call it that way, is the fact that you can then take that and you can use that as a hook in all of your other social platforms, so Facebook, Twitter, etc. Depending on the way your business is set up and depending on how people engage with you and your website, it may well be that you have a lead magnet on a particular page on your site because that page is aimed at a particular element of your audience. So yes, you can. One of the things you have to think about, though, is your ability to manage that whole process. If you've got multiples going on at the same time, you need to think about how you're going to be managing those relationships over time.
Great, thank you. A question here, what are your thoughts on having a discount voucher for trial periods as opposed to kind of money off a 7-day trial, that kind of thing? Do you feel like that's a good option?
I think with all of these things, there's a little bit of suck it and see. You know, the concept of marketing, that it's a measurable activity. It's something that you test to see what works and what doesn't. I think with all of these things, I would say give it a go and see what works. If nothing ever fails completely, it might seem like it sometimes, but nothing ever fails completely. There's usually something that will tell you which bit of something works. So yes, it is quite common practice. I mean, you'll find it in a lot of things that you'll sign up for online, where they'll give you, you know, the first 3 months for 50% off or something like that. So that can work. But what you want to be careful of, particularly if you're thinking about this in terms of your cash flow, is that you don't get everybody signing up for 50% off for the first 3 months and then disappearing in month 4.
Sure, great. A question around, do you have any recommendations for systems to create/run quizzes on? Or would you recommend keeping it simple and running it off of a PDF?
Personally, if I was doing something like this, I'm a massive believer in the KISS principle, keeping it simple and straightforward. And you could run it off a PDF. The other way you could do it would be through a survey format. So using something like SurveyMonkey, if you wanted to give people the opportunity to provide more feedback, or for you to then feedback to them. So the one that I gave an example of, the psychotherapist who's done the questionnaire, what she's actually done is she's created it a bit like a you know, one of those Cosmo questionnaires, where if you fall between 0 and 8, this is what you need to be aware of. If it's 9 to 11, this is what you need to be aware of. So that works as well.
Great, thank you. And I think we've got time for just one more question. Very simple one. The software that you mentioned for creating resources, could you spell it and say where it's available from?
Okay, yeah, it's not software. It's a website, and it's called Canva, and that's CANVA.com. It's free to use. They do have a paid-for version, which is, I think it's $80 for the year, which is, you know, it's not bank breaking that, which gives you a few extra bits and pieces, so you can upload your own branding, you can upload your company's colors and fonts and those kinds of things. But what a lot of people do is they sign up for the free they just register for the free version, and then once they find the value of it, then they go in and they pay for the paid for version.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Kathy, for the presentation and answering so many questions there. Thank you to everyone as well for coming and listening to the webinar today. Next week we have quite a different topic. We've got one specifically for all of our fashion businesses on how to work with a factory to manufacture a fashion product. So that should be really interesting, and hopefully I'll see a few of you there. So yeah, thanks again, Kathy, and
thank you.
Look forward to seeing you soon.